So this is Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by Sam Jones, who's making sure he's well hydrated for this interview. Good, always a good plan.
I'm on a bit of a fat man diet at the moment, Danny. I'm on a bit of a fat man, but I'm sticking to the plan. 2 days in, I'm sticking to it.
I should think so after 2 days, mate. Let me know after 2 weeks.
You'd be surprised how many people crack after an hour of being on a diet.
This is why I don't try. I don't want to set myself up for disappointment, inevitable disappointment. So
No, I've seen you grafting. I see you grafting away in the gyms nowadays.
training's easy. I love training. I enjoy it, but it's the dieting I can't do. I love eating shit food. It's just
It's a hard one because again, I'm a snacker, Danny. I was talking about you before. I'm a snacker, but I'm getting back into the gym. I think I'm going to start in the next couple of days with my trainer who trains me before. But I'm just making sure my diet's bang on because that is half. Believe me, dieting is half the flipping battle. And when you're a natural fat man like me, Danny, it's very difficult. But mine's on the game.
glad to hear it. Let's talk about two men who are slightly fitter than you and I, Sam, I have to say. Neat segue there. Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. Showdown. Hardly believe it's actually going to happen, but apparently it is. Tommy's there. I've seen him in the Middle East, so he's there. He's ready. Sunday night out in Saudi Arabia. And before we talk about the fight itself, how compared to like a big fight in traditional boxing, either one you've been involved in or one you've enjoyed as a fan, how excited are you about this fight?
Danny, I've just literally, no joke, I've just been on my local radio talking about this fight, and they asked me the same question. It's a weird one because it's not a tradition. It's not for a traditionalist. This isn't, but because of the social media finds and today's world, it's about social media and how and the attention. It's intriguing. Like if you're in the boxing game at the moment, you're intrigued by this fight. You don't have to love it. You don't have to say, "Oh, world champ," but it's an intriguing fight because I don't like to say this, but all the pressure's on Tommy. There is no pressure on Jake Paul in this fight, none. And it's Jake Paul will want to win for ego reasons, yeah. But mate, Tommy will get disowned if he doesn't win this fight, and win it in. And let me tell you, he has to win it in style as well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. And are you going out for it, or are you going to watch it on BT? What's the plan,
mate? I promise you, I was actually going to go to the fight. I've asked if I want to go out there and stuff, but mate, Derby have got Barnsley away. It's a big game. It's a big game, Danny. I can't miss it. Can't miss it. So no, I'm going to be going to watch Derby against Barnsley this weekend. I'm not gonna go. I'm going to watch it in the comfort of my living room.
Barnsley instead of Saudi Arabia. It reminds me of my days at Boxing News. Barnsley Metrodome instead of Las Vegas. Good stuff. I saw your comments yesterday or the day before on Twitter, although I'm not personally on there at the moment. I do still float around on the Seconds Out account.
Get yourself back on Twitter, Daniel. Stopping
that. I will get soon. Straight back on soon. There. I promise. One day. It's going to happen.
Back on Twitter.
I am the resurrection. Yeah, it will happen. Yes. But getting back to the point, you said you had real confidence in Tommy for this fight because you'd seen him as a young kid in Asgie's gym in Derby, knocking out or handling professional heavyweights as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And before we get on to how that applies to this fight, why do you think he hasn't been quite made an explosive impact on the professional scene so far, given how gifted he clearly was as a teenager?
He went on Love Island and he's earned money outside the boxing ring. It's as straightforward as that, isn't it, Danny? It's like anything. He's a model, isn't he? Outside the ring, he's a works for brands and stuff, and does his workouts. So he's got a very successful partner, Molly May. Do you know what I mean? They've got dough between them, and it's very difficult to go and get in there and say, right, I want to go and get in the ring and slog it out on the pads with Jonathan Fury. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a hard thing to do, isn't it? So I think he's just not took it seriously. I think he takes it seriously when he goes into camp and he does his camp, but I don't think he takes it 100% seriously because he makes a load of money outside the ring. In this fight, he knows it's not just about money because he's got money. He's getting well paid for it. But Danny, this is like you're not getting invited around for family Christmas dinners if you don't win this fight. Fury's a big name. It holds it's held in big regard in high regard in boxing, the Fury name. And I think when Tyson says, "Oh, stay in Saudi," I think he half means it, and his dad probably definitely means it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like he's under a hell of a lot of pressure. Is young Tommy in this fight? He's under a hell of a lot of pressure. He has to win this fight, and he has to win it for boxing as well. Let's be honest.
So for people who doubt Tommy, either they're carried away with Jake Paul's admitted success, or they haven't seen the best of Tommy as a pro, which I think we can all agree. What makes him special? What did you see in him as a kid that made you think?
I'm not saying he's special, Danny. I'm not saying he's special. I'm just saying he was always a big, strong lad. Yeah, and not just Derby. When he used to train in Derby, I've seen him train in Bolton for years. When he was up at Peter's gym in Bolton, Tommy can fight. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but he can fight. Do you know what I mean? He's a big, strong lad, and he can fight. And Jake Paul's been trying to box for whatever we want to call him. He's been involved in boxing for 3 years.
Yeah,
this is someone that's been bred to be involved in boxing. Okay, he's kind of been sidetracked because he went on Love Island. No one can fault him there. It's changed his life. Like he's made a fortune out of that. So fair credit to him. But Danny, he has to win for pride purposes. Imagine he rocks up at a show at the O2 just for like on your average show and just sits there, just get laughed at.
Yeah,
true. Not saying it's the right thing, but he will just get laughed at. You could, Danny, if you sat near Tommy Fury, in a few weeks' time, and he'd just been banjoed by Jake Paul, what's the first thing you'll think in your head? Be honest. You think, oh no, he got chinned by Jake Paul, and you sit there and you'll laugh to yourself about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't laugh in his face, but I'd laugh from a safe distance.
Absolutely, but you'll be thinking in the back of your head, flipping it. He'll just be known as the Fury. That's like disgrace the Fury name. Like, I'm just saying that it's harsh, but that is what he's going to be known as if he gets lynched by Jake Paul.
If he does win, and we assume he probably will, but if he does win, how likely is it that he's going to go back to a traditional boxing route, having earned millions by beating someone he'd expect to beat?
It depends, right? Because it depends on the manner he wins. Yeah, if he scrapes a point decision, or it's a scruffy points decision win, but it's a clear win, he'll probably stick to the YouTubing Fight KSI or somebody like I don't know. He might do something along those lines, depending on how big his profile gets after this as well. Because if he beats Jake Paul, his profile is going to be even bigger in that world,
yeah.
in the YouTube world. If he knocks him clean out in 2 rounds, which is, by rights he should be doing, if he wins in spectacular fashion, no YouTuber's going to fight him because they'll just know that he's a boxer and they're not. So he's in a.
But is he then going to be motivated to, train for an English title fight or something after making millions against Jake Paul?
That's the position that Frank Warren's going to be in, because he's going to, when you start paying someone £2 million to fight a YouTuber, he's going to be thinking, well, I don't care who I fight next. I'm Tommy Fury. I want to get paid some serious money. So it all depends on his contractual situation with Frank. But what I would imagine is he probably won't go the traditional route, probably go an international route and start fighting like some old kind of names that's on their way down and try and build probably the international route. That's probably the way. But I'm just saying it from what I think it can possibly go. But it all depends, Danny, on the manner of defeat or manner of, if he loses or it's even a remotely close fight, I think he's probably not going to box again. But if he wins, scruffy, he'll probably continue to do the misfits kind of stuff. If he wins in dramatic style, which is what he should do, he'll probably pursue his boxing career.
If by some miracle, some act of God, Jake Paul manages to pull it off and get the job done, what impact does that have? Not on Jake Paul, we'll talk about that in a minute, but on boxing in general. What does that say about boxing if Jake Paul can do that?
It's not about I think it's more Tommy's not took it seriously. Tommy's not that good. That's what it will come down to. It's not the fact but listen, it's not going to bring boxing in the best light. Do you know what I mean? But listen, first things first as well, and I mean this, I respect Jake Paul a lot. I think he's a marketing genius. I think his brothers are incredibly talented. They're both incredibly talented guys. They really are. And Jake Paul can fight. Not saying he can box, he can fight. He's beaten Tyrone Woodley in a one-on-one fight with fists. Twice, yeah? He can fight. And I know Anderson Silva was 900 years old. He's beat him in a fist fight and won. He can fight. You understand what I mean? Jake Paul can fight. And anyone that says otherwise, you don't know what you're talking about. He can fight. Can he beat an actual boxer that's had amateur fights? I know he's only had a handful of amateur fights, but he's been in around the game. If he can beat Tommy Fury, then people have got to look at Jake Paul and think, will he ever win a world title? I would bet my life on the fact no, unless, well, the way they could be ranking him, who knows? But I'm saying, could he fight at the elite level or even the world class level? No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. But that's me being just honest. But who knows? He might go on to prove me wrong. But I don't see it. I personally don't see it. He could go and fight in Bridgerweight.
It does kind of make it seem, though, if he does win, and maybe even now, before that happens.
If he wins, he'll fight Carl Froch. I actually think Carl Froch would fight him if he beats Tommy Fury. And I'll be honest with you, I want Tommy to win, but the other part, do you know that meme, Danny? Do you know with the frog, with the hood on, when do you know which one I'm talking about? When that frog looks in the mirror, it's like saying two different things. I'm like, I want him to win. The other part of me is thinking, if he does win, I get to see Carl Froch and him at a press conference table together, which for me is take my money. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Carl Froch beat his own record at Wembley, 81,000 large at Wembley Stadium against Jake Paul. I would love to see that.
It wouldn't last as long as his previous Wembley appearance, though, would it? Let's be honest.
No, you wouldn't imagine it to, but it'd be intriguing. Carl's been out the ring for so long; he's in his 40s, but you see Carl in the gym now. He still looks like he's 12-round fit now.
Yeah, I mean, you'd back him to beat Anderson Silva without much trouble, wouldn't you?
So... Come on, 100%. This is Carl Froch, 4-time world champion, Danny.
How seriously do you think he's taking it? Because I saw the video he did. He looked very serious, but Cole's always had that dry, tongue-in-cheek.
If somebody gives Carl Froch a few million quid to go and fight a YouTuber, you better believe he's doing it.
Oh yeah, but when I mean seriously, I mean, is he genuinely upset by the stuff Jake Paul's saying? Is he genuinely?
No, he won't be upset. Nothing will bother Carl Froch like that. Nothing will bother him like that. But I think it's more the fact that some people, like I just did the radio out. The guy that was interviewing me just went, does he beat Carl Froch now? And I went, oh, does Carl Froch? And I just went, oh my God, this is what happens nowadays, like with people and the public perception. I'm just literally like this thinking, are you being serious? Like you think Jake Paul could have a chance against Carl Froch?
This is what I mean about if Jake beats Tommy. Like people are going to think anyone can box. Anyone can beat a decent boxer now.
This is the pros and cons to it. No, listen, it's a crazy subject, but I do want Tommy to win. But then the part of me thinks if he does win, I'd kind of want to know what happens next.
Yeah.
If Jake loses to Tommy Fury, like say on points or something, he'll fight KSI, and that fight's still massive against KSI in that world. So before all these idiots say, "What are you talking about, you prick?" It's not a big fight. It's a big fight in the YouTube world, not in the boxing world. Before people start attacking me saying irrelevant Sam Jones is at it again.
I think some of these YouTube fights, while they might not be relevant to the traditional boxing world, will do bigger numbers than some of the boxing fights, not just because of pricing, but because they've got a different audience.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, I'd watch Jake Paul against KSI. I'd watch that. I'd be interested to watch that. But that's because Jake's kind of brought himself into the boxing world now. And listen, people forget as well, Jake Paul's done good things in boxing. What he's done with Amanda Serrano.
Yeah.
He's secured her biggest ever fight, I think, twice now. So you got to say fair play to Jake Paul like that. I really respect him. I just think it is time now that he went in and had against a boxer. I think so. Tommy's at that level. Let's see Tommy go in there and see what happens. I mean, if you ask me if I'm 100% confident Tommy wins, I'm confident he wins. But I'm not 100% obvious because there's a lot of unanswered questions, isn't there?
What do you see happening then? If you have to, obviously you're picking Tommy, but in what manner? Is he going to blast him out like you say he should in the first couple of rounds? Or do you see it being
I see Tommy winning in 3 rounds. I think he'll find his measure in the first round. But Tommy's got to go in there and not start flicking the jab out and doing all that kind of stuff. He's got to go in there and banjo him. That's what he's got to do. He's got to go in there for pride reasons. If you go in there starting to try to, because remember, because Jake Paul's still raw, it's kind of hard for a professional, because I've seen like in gym situations when people come in with no experience, it's kind of hard to box somebody like that. But Tommy Fury needs to go and impose himself and just physically dissect him.
Yeah, so it's like people talk about moral victories, don't they? If Tommy does anything other than stop, knock out Jake Paul, is that a moral defeat?
If it goes to points, it's a moral win for Jake Paul.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
Let's keep everything crossed. Biggest Tommy Fury fan I've ever been. But yeah, fingers crossed. And I like Jake Paul. I think he's done some good things.
Same,
but
same.
You know,
I like it.
I don't like what it says about boxing. If he can train for 3 years and beat someone who was a good amateur and a decent enough pro.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, we shall see. Sam, really appreciate the time as always. Let's catch up again after the fight, and then we'll dissect whatever's happened.
We'll
drown our sorrows or celebrate.
We'll speak straight after the fight, Danny.
All right, brilliant. Cheers, mate. You take care.
Take care, mate. See you in a bit, mate. Bye-bye.